Looking for something to read? Well, these are the books that I've written. Hop on down to the description to find the Amazon links for all 4 of them, and keep your eyes open for more in the future. With that said, on to the video. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and it's time for episode 6 of ULTRAMAN BLAZAR, specifically the review thereof. Now, have you ever been experiencing something that you thought was just okay on its own, but then something new was added to it and you realized that thing had really been missing the whole time, and it makes it just so much better that once it's gone, you feel like you can never go back to liking it the way it used to be? Well, ULTRAMAN BLAZAR did that in this episode by introducing the one thing it needed from the very beginning: tomatoes. Juicy, plump, red tomatoes. That's really what brings this whole episode together. And I honestly am surprised that they didn't approve more tomatoes to be present in the show before this. I'm also kind of worried that they won't be including tomatoes afterward, which will be disappointing to the people who are trying to play catch-up. I mean, I'd like to think that Tsuburaya Productions is responsible enough to highlight the tomatoes in such a way that we'll know that they're coming back, and that they've allocated enough money into the tomato budget. They need to. If they have to dip into the special effects budget, that's just a sacrifice that will have to be made in order to make sure that the tomatoes continue making ULTRAMAN BLAZAR the best possible Ultra series it can be. Okay, I think that joke has officially overstayed its welcome, and now we can get into the actual review. So this is Bondo's first spotlight episode. Bondo is the technical expert, the guy who's good with technology. Basically, he was like the last member of SCAR to be introduced, and it was at the very end of the second episode. His influence, however, had been felt throughout. Like, they would go into the base to get some of their equipment, came back out to the van, which was a perfectly normal van when they left it, and suddenly the van has been renovated when no one was looking. Turns out he's the one who did it, because he's just that good. He can make all of those renovations that quickly. But we haven't really gotten to see much of him as a person. Our focus, of course, has predominantly been on Gento, because he's the main character, and we've also gotten 2 Omni-centric episodes, which is more than any other character besides Gento has gotten. But Bondo is here to finally give us a first impression, well, beyond just being the smart technical guy. And it wasn't what I expected. It does kind of make the episode a little bit weird, but the episode itself actually knows that. Bondo starts off kind of being the guy who everyone says, hey, Bondo, can you do this? Bondo, can you do that? Bondo, I need this fixed. Bondo, I need that repaired. Bondo, I need just 5 shipments of these things, and they need to be to these specifications. And he's just more than happy to do it, because it's his job, it's what he's good at, and he's a very nice, amiable guy. He's like, sure, no problem. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do the other thing all at once. And it winds up overworking him. So he's told to take a little bit of a break. And this is where we see him in private, and he talks to a dryer at his local laundromat like it's a person. Again, like I said, it is weird, but he knows it's weird apparently. Although it doesn't stop him from doing it. I mean, it is a harmless kind of weird after all, and there is a little bit of social commentary in there, I think. I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. We live in an age where the relationships between people are so strained and fragile that there are people who are preferring to build relationships with artificial intelligence programs that, rather than actual people. It is a thing. And in fact, it's been a thing in Japan for a little bit. You've occasionally, no doubt, seen news stories work their way over here about such and such an individual who was a shut-in otaku and decided to marry a character in a dating sim he was playing. Yeah, that doesn't happen that frequently, of course, but it does happen. And with the rise of AI, it is happening a bit more. to the point where some people are actually getting scared about it. So commenting on it in an episode of Ultraman Blazar makes sense, although since Blazar is trying to maintain a family-friendly atmosphere, it obviously can't go directly to those places, so instead they switch out an AI program or a dating sim character for an appliance. I didn't say it worked perfectly, but it does give us a sense of who he is. He's more comfortable in his element, which is machinery and technology and whatnot, and he's gotten so comfortable with that that he anthropomorphizes the machines around him just automatically. But interacting with people, that's harder. And yeah, that's unusual, the way it's presented. I don't necessarily know if the episode quite stuck the landing with the depiction, but I do think I understand what it was going for. And by the end, of course, we don't have him condemned for it. In fact, his ability to relate to machines and actually be so good with them is part of what saves the day. But that's not ultimately what the episode is about, is it? The weird thing is, it seems like that's what it's about, because then the alien Kanan come in. Well, my thoughts on them in a little bit. And you're seeing it kind of be set up as sort of a reflection in a cracked mirror plot, where the Kanan have a similar view of technology as Bondo does, but instead of anthropomorphizing them purely in their imaginations, they have a device that can actually make it literal. It grants sentience to any machine. And they figure that's going to be their primary way they take over the world. They'll bring the machines to life. The machines will hate being oppressed by humanity, and therefore that'll allow them to win, since technology is literally everywhere. And they offer Bondo a chance to join them because they see a similar mindset in him. What they didn't count on was the fact that he is a human being. He will ultimately pick humanity over technology any day, even if he's not 100% comfortable with it. It seems like that's an interesting plot to go with, and yet at the end, it seems more like the lesson has to do with not overworking yourself, because that'll just cause stress. Not a bad lesson either, but like, I don't feel like those two lessons quite got all the way delivered the way they could have been. I guess as long as you got that takeaway, it's fine. But maybe try not to juggle them as much. What I'm saying is maybe this episode could have helped to be streamlined a little and gone with one lesson or the other. But by trying to do both at the same time, it feels like we didn't get a payoff for the choose humanity over technology plot, and we didn't really get enough build up to the don't overwork yourself moral. You see what I'm saying? I hope so, because I'm moving on. And of course, the alien Kanan are in here. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But this is interesting because they're the first legacy creatures to show up in Blazar. Other monsters we've seen up to this point, there might have been some homage to previous kaiju, but the Kanan have shown up in the Ultra series before. Specifically, they debuted in ULTRASEVEN. And I can't recall at the moment if I've seen their introductory episode yet. I am watching ULTRASEVEN, but my viewing of it has been very widely spaced out, and intercut with the viewing of other Ultra series at the same time. So I might have seen it, but I can't quite recall. Either way, though, that doesn't necessarily matter because our focus is on how they're depicted here. And yeah, they're pretty interesting, I guess. I don't know if we've seen everything they can do, because as alien invaders go, they don't come across as the brightest. It's not that their plan was completely asinine, but the fact that they couldn't understand that Bondo wouldn't join them, the fact that they didn't understand humanity itself, meant they were pretty much doomed anyway. Although, they did do a smart job in taking control of Earth Garon, which is the most interesting thing about this episode. Earth Garon is in fact the monster of the week this time around, which means he fights Ultraman Blazar for the first time. Although it's not the ultimate knockdown drag-out fight that you might be expecting, that however is by design. Ultraman Blazar's goal is not to destroy Earth Garon, because Earth Garon is, for lack of a better term, under mind control. The idea is just to keep him contained long enough for there to be a solution that pops up that will get him back to his senses, if you will. And as a result, Blazar holds back for most of the fight. And that makes sense. I don't know if perhaps this is foreshadowing a moment where they will have to have a full-blown battle to determine which of them will actually be Earth's protector. But if it is, that is interesting, because Earth Garon does put up quite a fight. Even knowing that Ultraman Blazar is holding back, Earth Garon really does prove himself to be more than capable of going toe-to-toe with him. So, I guess we'll see what happens. And of course, I cannot forget to talk about the craziest thing that happens in this episode, which is how Blazar delivers his finishing move by twisting his body into a coil and then just letting it unwind so he can propel his light spear at the fleeing Kanan ship. I think at this point it's safe to say Ultraman Blazar is in fact a cartoon character. Not an anime character, an actual cartoon character. Because this is like the second time he has operated on full-blown cartoon physics. The first time being against Gatos when he turned his spear into a fishing rod. I wonder if that's going to be the main thing that sets him apart. That he's a bit more screwball, if you will. Although that doesn't seem to be his base personality, the fact that he still goes those places is, I mean, it was unexpected certainly, it got a laugh out of me. I also have my suspicions that even though their invasion was thwarted very quickly, we have not seen the last of the alien Kanan. Why do I think that? Well, for one thing, it doesn't feel like they quite reached their full potential here. For another thing, aliens tend to be recurring villains, historically speaking, in the Ultra series. And for a third thing, as mentioned, they're legacy characters. Specifically, legacy characters from the most popular Ultra series of the classic run at the very least. ultraseven is considered one of the big, more popular entries. So with all that combined, I have a feeling we'll be seeing them again at least once. Maybe more. Maybe they'll wind up being the recurring villains. They'll be the Baltons of this series or something. Who knows? But, you know, if they do come back, it'll be interesting to see what they try next. Maybe they'll actually be the final bosses, and they will take over Earth Garon one more time, and we will have to see Blazar go full power against his former ally. I don't know, but I'm interested to see how they play things out. Anyway, the real takeaway from this episode, as already mentioned, is that we need more tomatoes in this series. It makes sense. Ultra heroes are red, tomatoes are red, I'm wearing red. I mean, it only makes sense, right? I'll just assume you said yes. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni viewer signing off. Thank you all for watching. If you want to see us keep doing what we're doing, you might consider doing all the usual YouTube things, as well as hopping down to the description to find links to DeviantArt, Patreon, Twitter, and links for the different books in the Tales from the Omni Vault universe. Your support is naturally appreciated. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.